High soul igniting story family. Get ready, because today we're bringing you a tender, soul-stirring tale that's sure to make your heart skip a beat. Let's begin. What happens when the person making your coffee is actually worth millions? The Grand Horizon Ballroom sparkles with chandeliers casting golden light on diamond jewelry and designer gowns. At the center of it all stands Alma Torres in a breathtaking emerald dress, her hand resting comfortably in the grasp of Orion Prescott, tech visionary, billionaire philanthropist, and the man Forbes just named most influential CEO of the year. They exchange a glance that speaks volumes, comfortable, intimate, genuine. She leans in and whispers something that makes him laugh, his eyes crinkling at the corners with undisguised joy. When Alma Torres walked into Crosswell Solutions that morning, she was just hoping for a job that would pay her bills. I tell you now, she never imagined she'd be standing here tonight, having captured the heart of one of the wealthiest men in America. But how did they get here? What invisible thread connected a woman struggling to make rent with a man who could buy entire city blocks? 6 months earlier, morning light streams through smudged bus windows as Alma clutches her worn canvas tote bag. Inside, a carefully prepared resume, 3 pens, because interviews are not the time for ink failures, and a wallet containing exactly $27.35, her entire liquid worth until next payday. The marble lobby of Crosswell Solutions feels impossibly vast. Glass and steel stretch upward, housing one of the most innovative tech companies in the country. Alma straightens her second-hand blazer and approaches the reception desk, heart pounding but chin held high. "I'm here for an interview," she says with more confidence than she feels. She has no appointment, no connections, no fancy degree from an elite university. Just determination burning in her chest and the voice of her mother whispering, "Your worth isn't in your wallet, Meja. It's in your heart and mind." This isn't just about wealth meeting humility. It's about what happens when two souls recognize each other despite the world's labels. It's about seeing beyond titles, beyond tax brackets, beyond the assumptions we make when we look at someone's shoes or address or accent. If you ever believe that love finds us in unexpected places, hit that like button now, because what unfolds over the next 6 months will challenge everything you thought you knew about workplace romance, about authentic connection in our status-obsessed world, and about the courage it takes to be truly seen. "I'm just here for the administrative assistant position," Alma tells the receptionist, unaware that the man standing beside her, the one in the faded blue button-down who smiles and holds the elevator door, is Orion Prescott himself. She doesn't recognize the billionaire CEO making small talk about the weather. He doesn't reveal his position at the company. And in that ordinary moment, something extraordinary begins. You might be thinking this sounds like a modern fairy tale, the classic poor girl meets rich boss story we've heard 1,000 times. But I promise you, what happens next breaks every rule in that playbook. This story will take you from sterile conference rooms to intimate coffee shops, from misunderstandings that cut deep to revelations that heal. You will witness the chaos that erupts when their worlds collide publicly, the whispers that follow them through corporate hallways, and the quiet moments where barriers fall away, leaving just two people seeing each other clearly. Stay with me for a journey about choosing authenticity in a world obsessed with appearances, about finding love where protocol says it shouldn't exist, and about having the courage to stand in your truth when everyone else wants to write your story for you. This is how a simple employee captured the heart of the millionaire CEO, and it's unlike any love story you've heard before. Alma Torres learned the meaning of sacrifice long before most children understand the concept. In the small 2-bedroom apartment on Milwaukee's South Side, her mother Gabriella worked 3 jobs after Alma's father passed away unexpectedly when Alma was just 7 years old. Mommy would come home after midnight from her cleaning job. Alma once told a friend, "I'd pretend to be asleep, but I'd watch her count coins at the kitchen table, sorting them into little piles for rent, for groceries, for my school supplies." The Torres apartment was modest, but impeccably maintained. What they lacked in luxury, Gabriella compensated with care. Framed photos covering wall cracks, secondhand furniture polished to a shine, and always flowers on the table. Even if there were dandelions Alma had picked from the cracks in the sidewalk. Winter in Milwaukee brought its own challenges. The heating in their building worked sporadically at best, leading to nights huddled under every blanket they owned. Alma became expert at layering clothes, at warming her hands over the stove, while her mother cooked beans that would stretch across multiple meals. "We don't need much to be happy," Gabriella would say, her accent thickening when she was tired. "Just enough to share and a heart that knows gratitude." Those words became Alma's foundation. School became Alma's sanctuary. While other teenagers complained about assignments, she devoured knowledge, understanding instinctively that education offered the path forward her mother desperately wanted for her. She excelled in mathematics and computer science, despite having no computer at home until her sophomore year, when she saved enough from babysitting to buy a refurbished laptop. By 16, Alma was contributing to household expenses. Mornings at the local bakery, before school. Waitressing weekends at Lupe's Taqueria. Summers filled with any odd job she could find. Dog walking, garden tending, tutoring younger students. Your hands should never be idle, her mother taught her, but your mind should always be free to dream. The college acceptances arrived during her senior year. Impressive schools with prestigious programs. The celebration lasted until the financial aid packages followed. Even with scholarships, the numbers remained impossible. Alma chose Milwaukee Technical College instead. She worked full-time while earning her associate's degree in computer science, taking night classes and online courses, surviving on energy drinks and determination. Some people climb mountains in one giant leap, her favorite professor told her. Others take 1,000 small steps. Both reached the summit, Alma, when her mother was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. Alma postponed her plans to transfer to a 4-year university. Instead, she took on additional shifts at the diner, eventually becoming assistant manager. Evenings were spent applying her technical skills, building websites for local businesses, and teaching herself programming languages from free online resources. For 3 years, Alma existed in this delicate balance, supporting her mother, expanding her skills, saving carefully for the future. Her friends moved away, started careers, posted vacation photos on social media that Alma scrolled through during rare breaks at work. Then came the notice. The building where they'd lived for 15 years was being converted to luxury condominiums. Their rent would double within 3 months. That night, after her mother fell asleep, Alma sat at their kitchen table with her laptop open to job listings. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitating before typing. Entry-level positions, tech industry. The Crosswell Solutions listing appeared. Administrative assistant. No degree required. Competitive salary with benefits, including medical coverage. The address showed downtown Milwaukee, in the gleaming business district Alma passed on the bus but never entered. But what Alma didn't know that morning was that fate had other plans. As she printed her resume on the library's computer, as she ironed her one interview-appropriate outfit, as she practiced answers in the bathroom mirror, life was preparing to take an unexpected turn. The morning of her interview, Alma woke before dawn. She carefully applied minimal makeup, pulled her dark hair into a neat bun, and put on the navy blue blazer she found at Goodwill, a designer brand someone had discarded, with only a small tear in the lining she'd carefully mended. "You look professional, Meja," her mother said, adjusting Alma's collar. "But more important, you look honest. Never lose that." The bus ride downtown felt interminable. Each stop brought her closer to Crosswell Solutions, a company whose products she could never afford but whose reputation for innovation she admired from afar. Standing before the towering glass headquarters, Alma felt her stomach tighten. Inside that building waited possibility. Health insurance for her mother, stable income, perhaps even a path toward finishing her degree. Have you ever walked into a place knowing your entire future depended on making a good impression? That moment when your heartbeat seems too loud, when you wonder if everyone can see the doubt beneath your carefully constructed confidence. Alma took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and pushed through the revolving doors into the sleek lobby of Crosswell Solutions. The marble floor reflected her nervous smile as she approached the reception desk, unaware that upstairs, a CEO in a faded blue shirt was about to change her life forever. While Alma was growing up in Milwaukee with her widowed mother, Orion Prescott was forging his own path from similarly humble beginnings in Newark, New Jersey. His parents, Elena and Mateo Prescott, née Preskotnikov, had arrived from Eastern Europe with advanced degrees that meant nothing in America and exactly $47 hidden in Elena's boot. His father took work as a janitor in a tech company, while his mother cleaned homes during the day and took accounting classes at night. My earliest memories are my father's hands, Orion once shared in a rare personal interview. They were always cracked and rough from cleaning chemicals. He'd come home exhausted, but still find energy to teach me math problems or explain how computers worked based on what he observed cleaning the offices. Their apartment was tiny, located in a neighborhood where gunshots sometimes served as alarm clocks. Young Orion wore hand-me-down from church donations and learned to ignore the teasing about his synthetic shoes and outdated clothes. The public library became his sanctuary, computers his obsession. By 13, Orion was repairing neighbors' electronics for small fees. By 16, he'd taught himself coding well enough to build simple websites for local businesses. His bedroom doubled as a workshop, with parts salvaged from dumpsters behind electronics stores. My mother would shake her head at the mess, he recalled, but she never complained. She just said, "Create something magnificent from this chaos, my son." When Princeton University offered him a partial scholarship, Orion worked 3 jobs to cover remaining expenses. He slept 4 hours nightly, subsisted on ramen and coffee, and still graduated with honors in computer engineering. His thesis project, an algorithm streamlining supply chain logistics, caught the attention of several tech companies. But Orion didn't want to work for someone else's vision. With his college roommate Damon Way and $15,000 borrowed from Damon's grandmother, Orion launched Crosswell Solutions from Damon's parents' garage. Their first product, inventory management software for small businesses, wasn't revolutionary, but it was affordable and user-friendly. We ate microwave burritos for 18 months straight, Orion told Business Insider. We coded until we couldn't see straight, then took turns napping on a moldy futon while the other kept working. Their breakthrough came 3 years later with CrossConnect, a secure communication platform that addressed vulnerabilities other products ignored. Major corporations took notice. Investment offers poured in. Suddenly, the garage operation expanded to real offices, then multiple floors, then its own building. By 35, Orion Prescott was worth over $1 billion. The business press painted him as a tech wunderkind, brilliant, driven, ruthlessly innovative. Forbes featured him between a Saudi prince and a hedge fund manager in their 40 Under 40 issue. His clothing choices became fashion statements. His offhand comments about competitors moved markets. But success brought a peculiar form of isolation. After our IPO, everyone changed around me. Orion confided to Damon. People who used to tell me my ideas were garbage now acted like everything I said was genius. I missed honesty. The man on Forbes magazine covers had a secret no one suspected. Every few weeks, Orion would shed his designer clothes, don jeans and an ordinary button-down, and work alongside different departments incognito. He introduced himself only as Orion from operations, or sometimes the new guy from product testing. His executive team knew about these excursions, but were sworn to secrecy. What began as a way to understand company operations on the ground level evolved into something more meaningful, a way to connect with people who saw him as a colleague rather than a billionaire. In meetings, I'd watch employees hold back ideas, afraid to contradict the boss, Orion explained to his chief operating officer. But working beside them as a peer, I'd hear brilliant suggestions they'd never voice in the boardroom. I'd see problems the executive summaries never mentioned. This practice became his refuge from the increasingly artificial world of wealth. During these days undercover, no one monitored his words for stock implications. No one laughed too hard at mediocre jokes. No one angled for promotions or funding. The public saw Orion Prescott as a genius CEO who transformed modern business communication. His employees saw a demanding but fair leader who emphasized innovation and ethical practices. Only Orion himself knew how much he treasured those anonymous days, until a chance encounter with a new administrative assistant named Alma Torres would challenge everything he'd built, personally and professionally. Alma's first week at Crosswell Solutions passed in a blur of orientation sessions, paperwork, and desperately trying to memorize names and faces. Her role as administrative assistant to the marketing department meant juggling calendars, ordering supplies, and making sure the break room never ran out of coffee, a task that seemed perpetually urgent. On Thursday afternoon, she rushed into the third-floor break room with an armful of coffee packages. The previous assistant had left abruptly, leaving minimal instructions, and Alma was determined to prove herself capable despite feeling overwhelmed. "Come on," she muttered, struggled with the coffee machine's complicated filter system. The sleek, expensive model bore little resemblance to the simple drip machine at the diner where she'd worked. "Need a hand with that?" Alma turned to find a man leaning against the counter. He wore a faded blue button-down with the sleeves rolled up and khaki pants that had seen better days. Nothing about him screamed executive. His watch was practical rather than flashy, his dark hair slightly messy, as if he'd been running his hands through it. "Is it that obvious I have no idea what I'm doing?" Alma laughed, stepping aside. The man moved forward, took the coffee package from her hands, and deftly opened the machine. "This model is unnecessarily complicated. The engineering team got carried away with features nobody needs." He demonstrated the loading process with practiced ease. "I'm Orion, by the way. Alma Torres. I started Monday. Marketing department, right?" "How'd you know?" "Only marketing orders the vanilla hazelnut blend. The development team prefers the dark roast. Something about coating requiring bitter caffeine." Alma smiled, relaxing slightly. "So, what department are you in?" "Oh, I float around," Orion said vaguely. "Different projects, different departments." As the coffee began brewing, filling the room with its aroma, Alma leaned against the counter. "I'm still trying to figure out who's who. This place is huge compared to where I used to work." "Where was that?" "Lupe's Taqueria, and then assistant manager at Daybreak Diner." She hesitated, wondering if mentioning her non-corporate background was a mistake. Orion's expression brightened. "Daybreak on Jefferson Street? With those amazing blueberry pancakes." "You know it. I stop there sometimes on weekends. Low-key place, good food, nobody bothers you." The coffee machine beeped. Orion poured 2 cups, handed one to Alma, and gestured toward a small table by the window overlooking the city. "So how's the transition from diners to corporate America?" he asked. Under normal circumstances, Alma might have given a polite, generic answer, but something about Orion's casual demeanor made her feel at ease. "Honestly, terrifying. Everything is so polished here. Yesterday I spent 15 minutes trying to figure out how to transfer a call. And don't get me started on the dress code. I've been rotating the same 3 outfits all week hoping nobody notices." Instead of the awkward silence she expected, Orion laughed. "When I first started working in an office, I had exactly 1 tie. Wore it every single day for 3 months. What happened after 3 months? It got caught in the copy machine. Dramatic end to its career." They shared a laugh, and the conversation flowed naturally from there. Orion asked thoughtful questions about her previous jobs, seeming genuinely interested in her stories about regular customers and the community aspect of neighborhood diners. "That's what's missing in corporate environments," he observed. "The human connection. Knowing people's stories, not just their functions." "Exactly," Alma agreed, surprised to find someone who understood. "At Lupe's, we knew who was celebrating anniversaries, who was going through divorces, whose kids were graduating. Here, I barely know anyone's name." "So, what brought you to Crosswell?" Alma hesitated, then decided on honesty. "Health insurance, mainly. My mom has rheumatoid arthritis, and the medications are expensive. Plus, there's growth potential here that a diner can't offer." Orion nodded, his expression thoughtful. "What would you want to grow into?" "I have an associate's degree in computer science. Eventually, I'd love to move into the development department. I've been teaching myself coding languages, but without a 4-year degree, the best developers I know are self-taught." Orion interrupted. "Degrees matter less than problem-solving abilities and persistence. Try telling that to HR," Alma sighed. "Maybe you should look into the bridge program," Orion suggested. "It's not widely advertised, but Crosswell has an internal development track for promising employees without traditional credentials." Little did she know, this simple conversation would change everything. Before Alma could ask more questions, her phone buzzed with a message from her supervisor requesting coffee service for an impromptu meeting. "Duty calls," she said, reluctantly standing. "Thanks for the coffee tutorial and the bridge program tip." "Anytime," Orion replied. It was nice meeting someone who values authentic connection. As Alma hurried back to the marketing department, she couldn't help smiling. Perhaps Crosswell wouldn't be as impersonal as she feared if there were more people like Orion around. Have you ever met someone important without realizing who they were? Comment below about a time when you connected with someone whose significance you only discovered later. What Alma didn't realize as she loaded a tray with coffee cups was that she had just spent 20 minutes chatting with the founder and CEO of Crosswell Solutions, a man whose face had appeared on the cover of Fortune magazine just last month. Over the next few weeks, coffee breaks with Orion became a highlight of Alma's workdays. They established an unspoken routine. Thursdays at 2:30, they'd somehow both end up in the third-floor break room, sharing observations about workplace dynamics and swapping stories from their lives. "You seem unusually cheerful for someone who just survived a monthly marketing presentation," Samir, the friendly IT specialist who'd helped set up her computer, commented one afternoon. "Just taking a break," Alma replied, unable to explain why conversations with Orion left her energized rather than drained. These encounters remained casual and professional, yet distinctive. Unlike other workplace interactions that centered on deadlines and office politics, their discussions explored deeper territories. Books that changed their thinking, ethical questions in technology, the challenges of staying authentic in corporate settings. During one such conversation, Alma mentioned her struggle with the marketing department's outdated filing system. "It's so inefficient," she explained, sketching a flowchart on a napkin. "Everyone's wasting hours searching for materials that should be accessible in seconds." Orion studied her diagram with genuine interest. "Have you considered proposing a solution?" "Me? I'm just the admin assistant. No one's asking for my input on systems architecture." "Maybe they should," Orion said quietly. "This redesign shows impressive logical thinking." The following week, Alma's supervisor, Julia, approached her desk. "Marketing's been selected for a digital workflow audit. They need someone to represent our department's current processes. I recommended you." Puzzled but pleased, Alma attended the meeting where she found herself explaining departmental workflows to senior staff from operations. When they asked for improvement suggestions, she hesitantly shared her ideas, expecting dismissal. Instead, the project lead took detailed notes and asked follow-up questions. 2 days later, Julia called Alma into her office. "The audit team was impressed with your systems thinking. They requested you join the implementation committee. It's a temporary assignment, but excellent visibility." Meanwhile, Orion continued appearing in unexpected places throughout Alma's workday, helping her navigate the complex copy machine, joining her table in the cafeteria, offering suggestions when she mentioned challenges. "How do you know so much about everything at Crosswell?" she asked him once. "I've been around a while," he answered with that enigmatic smile she'd come to appreciate. "You pick things up?" What Alma didn't see was Orion in his executive suite, reviewing the workflow audit report with particular attention to the committee assignments, or speaking casually to the head of professional development about promising employees without 4-year degrees. During one lunch conversation, Alma mentioned her evening routine of online coding tutorials. "Which languages are you focusing on?" Orion asked. "Python and JavaScript mainly. I'm working through this database integration module that's kicking my butt, though." The next day, an email arrived from professional development announcing a workshop series on advanced database concepts. Exactly what she needed. When Alma mentioned the coincidence to Orion, he merely remarked that the universe sometimes provides. As autumn progressed, Alma's role expanded beyond administrative tasks. The Workflow Implementation Committee valued her practical insights. Her supervisor began requesting her input on process improvements. A senior marketing manager asked her to troubleshoot the department's analytics dashboard when it malfunctioned. "You have good instincts," he told her afterward. "Ever consider moving beyond admin work?" Each small success built her confidence. Each recognition validated her capabilities. And with every step forward, Alma found herself mentally composing stories to share with Orion, anticipating his thoughtful questions, his genuine interest in her growth. One rainy October afternoon, they sat beside the window watching droplets race down the glass. Alma had just described her mother's delight at the improved medical coverage her new position on the implementation committee provided. "I keep wondering why you're so easy to talk to," she admitted. "I've known you less than 2 months, but somehow conversations with you feel more real than with people I've known for years." Orion's expression softened. "Maybe because we're both used to observing before participating, watching how systems work, mechanical or human, before engaging with them. Is that what we're doing? Observing each other." "I think we're seeing each other," he replied. "There's a difference." The distinction lingered in Alma's mind that evening as she described her day to her mother over dinner in their small apartment. "You mention this Orion person often," Gabriella noted, serving rice and beans. "Is he special to you?" "He's just a colleague, Mommy. Someone who understands what it's like to feel like you don't quite belong in fancy corporate spaces. Understanding is where connection begins, Mija." Alma dismissed her mother's implication, yet found herself selecting her outfits more carefully on Thursday mornings, practicing intelligent questions about business concepts, feeling inexplicably disappointed when meetings occasionally prevented their break room encounters. In November, Alma received an email about the bridge program Orion had mentioned, a competitive internal pathway for employees seeking to transition into technical roles. The application required a project proposal demonstrating technical aptitude and business understanding. "I don't know if I'm qualified," she confessed during their next coffee break. The selection committee includes directors from multiple departments. "What's your project idea?" Orion asked. As Alma outlined her concept for a customer feedback integration tool, Orion asked thoughtful questions that helped refine her thinking. By the end of their conversation, her nebulous concept had transformed into a clear, compelling proposal. "Apply," he said simply. "The worst outcome is learning something from the process." Have you ever connected with someone and couldn't explain why? That inexplicable resonance that makes conversations flow effortlessly, that creates a space where you feel both challenged and accepted? For Alma, these Thursday conversations have become the highlight of her week, professional yet personal, intellectually stimulating yet emotionally resonant. What began as casual break room chats had evolved into something neither had anticipated, a connection based on mutual respect and genuine interest that transcended typical workplace interactions. What she didn't yet realize was how dramatically this connection would be tested when the truth about Orion Prescott's identity finally emerged. December arrived with a buzz of excitement throughout Crosswell Solutions. After months of development, the company was finally launching Phoenix, a revolutionary communication platform promising to transform how businesses connect with customers. All employees received invitations to the launch presentation. Marketing staff, including administrative personnel, were required to attend. As one of the newest team members, Alma was assigned to distribute presentation materials at the auditorium entrance. The CEO himself will be presenting. Julia told her with meaningful emphasis. "This is the biggest product launch in company history." Alma nodded, mentally calculating how this additional responsibility would affect her bridge program application deadline. She hadn't seen Orion for almost 2 weeks. End-of-year projects had disrupted their usual Thursday routine. She found herself missing their conversations, the way he listened as though her thoughts genuinely mattered. Launch day arrived with ceremonial fanfare. The grand auditorium at Crosswell headquarters had been transformed with dramatic lighting and a massive stage featuring the Phoenix logo, a stylized bird emerging from geometric shapes. Executive row, the front section reserved for senior leadership, filled with men and women in impeccable suits exchanging hushed conversations. Alma stationed herself by the entrance, professionally dressed in her best black pants and a borrowed blazer, distributing glossy program booklets as employees filed in. The room hummed with anticipation. "Good crowd," Samir commented, pausing beside her. "Everyone wants to see the wizard emerge from behind the curtain." "The wizard?" "Prescott. He rarely does these big presentations anymore. Usually sends a chief product officer, but Phoenix is his baby." Alma nodded, though the name meant little to her. In her 3 months at Crosswell, she'd absorbed countless acronyms and executive titles, but hadn't concerned herself much with upper management hierarchies. As the lights dimmed, Alma slipped into a seat in the back row. The chief marketing officer appeared first, delivering polished remarks about market positioning and competitive advantage. Then the stage went dark. When the lights rose again, a tall figure stood center stage, back to the audience. The crowd erupted in applause before he even turned around. "Thank you all for being here today," the figure said, turning to face the audience. Alma froze, her program booklet slipping from suddenly numb fingers. Orion. But not the Orion she knew. Not the casual, approachable man in faded button-downs who helped her with the coffee machine. This Orion wore an impeccably tailored charcoal suit. His usually tousled hair was neatly styled. His posture radiated authority. For those who don't know me, I'm Orion Prescott, founder and CEO of Crosswell Solutions. The words echoed in Alma's ears like thunder. Founder, CEO. The revelation crashed through her consciousness, rearranging everything she thought she knew. The man who'd spent hours listening to her ideas about workflow improvements wasn't just another employee. He was the billionaire founder whose name graced the building. The person who'd shared blueberry pancakes at her table wasn't a floating project manager. He was a visionary leader featured in business magazines. In that moment, everything she thought she knew shattered. As Orion launched into his presentation, eloquently describing Phoenix's revolutionary features, Alma sat motionless. Her mind raced through every conversation, every coffee break, every casual interaction, reframing each moment through this new, distorting lens. Had he been laughing at her all along? Was she some kind of social experiment? A diversion from executive pressures? The memory of sharing her struggles, her family challenges, her career aspirations of man she believed was a peer now burned with humiliation. On stage, Orion demonstrated Phoenix's capabilities with practiced expertise, occasionally making the audience laugh with insider tech jokes. He looked completely at home, commanding the attention of hundreds, nothing like the thoughtful, somewhat reserved person she'd come to know. Who seeks authentic connection in today's digital landscape? Orion asked the crowd rhetorically. All of us, from the executive suite to the front line, humans crave genuine interaction. The words, so similar to their breakroom discussions, felt like a physical blow. Had he been testing product messaging on her? Mining her responses for marketing insights? When the presentation ended to thunderous applause, executives swarmed the stage. Alma remained frozen in her seat, watching Orion navigate the crowd with practiced ease. For a brief moment, his eyes scanned the auditorium and seemed to find him in the back row. She looked away immediately, gathering her things with trembling hands. "Pretty impressive, right?" a colleague commented as they filed out. "They say he started the company in a garage with borrowed money. Now look at him." Alma mumbled agreement, desperate to escape. The corridors felt too bright, too crowded, too false. She needed air, needed space to process his revelation that had turned her growing workplace confidence upside down. Back at her desk, she mechanically completed her afternoon tasks while her mind replayed every interaction with Orion through this new filter. The Bridge program application sat untouched on her computer. Her phone pinged with a calendar notification. Thursday, 2:30 p.m., coffee break. The standing appointment she'd never formally scheduled but had come to anticipate each week now seemed like a cruel joke. At exactly 2:25, Alma shut down her computer and gathered her things. "Heading to the break room?" Julia asked. "Actually, I'm not feeling well," Alma replied. "I think I need to go home early." Outside in the December chill, Alma pulled her coat tighter and joined the anonymous flow of pedestrians. Her phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced down to see an unfamiliar number. "Are we still on for coffee?" "Oh." She stared at the message, emotions warring within her. Betrayal competing with the undeniable connection she'd felt during their conversations. Had any of it been real? Or was she just another project for the billionaire CEO who played at being ordinary? Alma slipped the phone back into her pocket without responding and continued walking, tears threatening despite her determination to maintain composure. If you're invested in what happens next, hit subscribe and the notification bell. The most challenging part of Alma and Orion's journey is just beginning. For 3 days, Alma successfully avoided Orion. She rescheduled meetings that might include him, took lunch at her desk, and used the break room on the 5th floor instead of the 3rd. Her bridge program application remained unfinished, the deadline approaching with each passing day. On the 4th morning, she arrived to find a handwritten note on her desk. "We should talk. 8 p.m. tonight. Executive Suite, 42nd floor. Security will expect you. OP." Her first instinct was to crumple the note and ignore it. Yet something stopped her, perhaps the same inexplicable connection that had drawn her to their conversations from the beginning. At 8:05 p.m., the elevator doors opened onto the 42nd floor. Alma had expected marble, glass, and opulence, the standard trappings of executive power. Instead, she found herself in a surprisingly modest reception area. A security guard nodded at her arrival. "Ms. Torres, Mr. Prescott is expecting you. Last door on the right." She followed his directions down a hallway decorated with framed photographs of Crosswell's earliest products and team members. At the end stood a simple wooden door with a small nameplate. "Oh, Prescott." Alma knocked, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Come in," called a familiar voice. Orion's office defied every expectation. While spacious, it lacked the ostentatious furnishings featured in magazine spreads of CEO workspaces. A practical desk dominated by 3 computer monitors, bookshelves filled with technical manuals and philosophy texts, a worn leather couch beneath windows overlooking the city, coffee mugs with programming jokes, whiteboards covered in diagrams and code. It looked like a working space, not a showroom. Orion stood by the windows, still in his shirt sleeves despite the late hour. The confident stage presence from the Phoenix launch had dissolved, replaced by the more familiar, slightly awkward demeanor she'd come to know in the break room. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. "Did I have a choice? You're the CEO. I'm the admin assistant." Her words hung in the air between them, the power imbalance now nakedly acknowledged. "You always have choices, Alma, including walking out that door right now if that's what you want." She remained standing, arms crossed. "Why did you lie to me?" "I never lied." "You deliberately misled me," she interrupted. "You let me believe you were just another employee. You watched me struggle with the coffee machine, complain about my supervisor, and share personal details about my life, all while knowing exactly who you were and who I was." Orion sighed, gesturing toward the couch. "Will you sit? Please." After a moment's hesitation, Alma perched on the edge of the couch. Orion sat in the chair opposite, maintaining a respectful distance. "You're right," he began. "I wasn't fully honest about my position. But everything else, every conversation, every response, every moment of connection, was absolutely genuine." "How can I believe that? Do you regularly spend time with entry-level employees, or was I some special project?" "Neither," he admitted. "For years, I've occasionally worked alongside different departments incognito. It started as a way to understand operational challenges from ground level, but eventually it became something else, a way to escape the isolation of this office." He gestured around the room. "The higher I climbed, the less honest feedback I received. People stopped contradicting me, stopped sharing their true thoughts. Every idea became brilliant, every joke hilarious. I lost the genuine human interaction I valued." Alma absorbed his words, still skeptical. "So I was what?" "A refreshing break from yes men. You were the first person in years who spoke to me as a human being, not a position. You shared honest thoughts, challenged my perspectives, and never once tried to impress me or gain advantage." His voice softened. "Do you know how rare that is in my world?" What he said next changed everything between them. "I kept my identity hidden for selfish reasons. Alma, I was afraid that once you knew who I was, everything would change. Our conversations would become performative. The authenticity would vanish. And I couldn't bear to lose the one real connection I'd found." The rawness in his voice penetrated her anger. For the first time, she saw the loneliness behind his success, the isolation that accompanied his position. "I understand why you're hurt," he continued. I betrayed your trust through omission. But please believe me when I say those Thursday conversations meant more to me than any executive meeting or business negotiation. Alma looked around the office again, noting details she'd missed initially. A framed photo of a much younger Orion with an older couple, presumably his parents. Coffee grounds on the carpet beneath his desk. A stack of books with dozens of colored sticky notes protruding from the pages. Why tell me now? Why not continue the charade? Because you deserve honesty. Because authentic connection can't exist without truth. And because... He hesitated, vulnerability evident in his expression. Because I value our friendship too much to build on deception. The silence stretched between them, tense yet somehow different from the angry silence of moments before. I don't know if I can trust you again, Alma finally said. I understand. I'm asking for a chance to rebuild that trust. Not as CEO and employee, but as two people who connected over coffee and conversation. Would you forgive someone who hid their identity for a connection like this? Or would the deception, regardless of intention, permanently break your trust? Alma stood, gathering her coat. I need time to think. Of course, Orion nodded, rising but not approaching her. Your bridge program application deadline is tomorrow. Whatever you decide about our friendship, don't let the situation derail your professional goals. At the door, Alma paused. How did you know about my deadline? A slight smile touched his lips. I created the program. The whispers began 3 days after Alma's late-night meeting with Orion. She spent 2 hours in his office. Someone murmured in the break room when they thought Alma couldn't hear. After hours. Alone. By the following week, the rumors had evolved from suggestive to specific. The marketing department buzzed with speculation about why an administrative assistant received personal attention from the CEO. Theories range from family connections to more intimate relationships. Did you notice she got that workflow committee position after only a month here? And now she's applying for the bridge program? Come on. Alma kept her head down and focused on her work, but the subtle shifts in colleague behavior were impossible to ignore. Conversations stopped when she entered rooms. Invitations to lunch dwindled. Even Julia, her supervisor, began documenting all their interactions with unusual formality. The situation escalated when Alma was accepted into the bridge program. Though 40 employees had applied, only 12 received spots. Her name on the acceptance list triggered a new wave of speculation. Must be nice having the CEO as your personal mentor, a rejected applicant commented loudly as Alma passed. That afternoon, Alma received an email from Human Resources requesting a meeting to discuss professional boundaries and company policies regarding interpersonal relationships. The HR director, Vanessa Chun, was professionally neutral as Alma sat across from her desk. Ms. Torres, I want to be clear that this is not a disciplinary meeting. We're simply addressing concerns that have been brought to our attention. What concerns exactly? Alma asked, though she already knew. There have been observations about your interactions with Mr. Prescott. Crosswell Solutions has clear policies about relationships between employees, particularly those involving reporting structures. Alma's face burned. There is no relationship. We had professional conversations in the CEO's office after business hours. He wanted to discuss my professional development. Vanessa's expression remained carefully neutral. I understand. However, perception matters in corporate environments. Even the appearance of favoritism can damage team dynamics and trust. As the meeting continued, Alma felt her hard-won confidence crumbling. Every achievement now seemed tainted by suspicion. Her acceptance into the bridge program, which should have been a moment of pride, now felt hollow. Walking back to her desk, she overheard a marketing coordinator telling a colleague, "She probably doesn't even know how to code, but put on a tight skirt, bat your eyelashes at the boss." Alma stopped cold. "Excuse me," the woman startled, clearly not expecting confrontation. "I wasn't talking about you." "Yes, you were, and you're wrong. I've been coding since community college. I worked 3 jobs to pay for my associate's degree. I earned my spot in that program through merit, not manipulation." The exchange left her shaking. both from anger and from the realization that no matter how hard she worked, some would always attribute her success to anything but her abilities. That evening, Alma found an unexpected ally in Samir from IT, who sat beside her in the nearly empty cafeteria. "The rumor mill is brutal," he said without preamble. "For what it's worth, I've seen your code. You belong in that program regardless of who you know." His simple vote of confidence meant more than he could possibly understand. While everyone was talking, what no one saw was Orion Prescott methodically addressing the situation from his position of power. Without drawing attention to Alma specifically, he initiated a comprehensive review of Crosswell's interpersonal relationship policies. The existing framework, drafted when the company had 50 employees instead of thousands, contained outdated language and assumptions about power dynamics. The review committee, which included HR, legal counsel, and employee representatives, worked to modernize guidelines around mentorship, professional development, and yes, workplace relationships. Meanwhile, Orion maintained professional distance from Alma, their Thursday coffee breaks now a memory. He monitored the situation through discreet reports from Vanessa Chun, learning how the rumors affected Alma's daily experience. When the bridge program commenced, Alma threw herself into work, determined to prove her capabilities beyond any doubt. Her project, a customer feedback integration tool, progressed rapidly, her night spent coding long after her mother had gone to bed. 2 weeks into the program, Alma requested a meeting with Vanessa Chun. "I'd like to transfer departments," she said without preamble. "May I ask why?" "Your supervisor reports you're performing well despite the situation. Everyone knows about my interactions with Mr. Prescott. That's impossible." She placed a folder on Vanessa's desk. "These are 3 departments currently hiring junior developers. None report directly to the executive floor. I'd like to be considered for transfer once I complete the bridge program." Vanessa studied her with newfound respect. Most people would leverage a connection to the CEO, not actively move away from it. "I'm not most people. I need to know my achievements are mine alone." That evening, Vanessa's report to Orion contained a detailed account of Alma's request. What the HR director couldn't include was how, after Alma left her office, she'd sat thinking about the young woman's integrity and determination. "She's either remarkably principled or remarkably strategic," Vanessa told her wife that night. "Either way, she's someone to watch." Spring arrived, bringing new beginnings both literal and metaphorical. As the bridge program concluded, Alma accepted a position as a junior developer in Consumer Applications Team, a department 3 floors and worlds away from both marketing and the executive offices. Her new workspace consisted of a small desk and a row of similar workstations, surrounded by developers focused intently on their screens. No one here seemed concerned with office politics or who might be dating whom. They care about clean code, efficient solutions, and meeting deadlines. "Your background is unusual," her new manager Eliza commented during orientation. "Self-taught, then formal education, then industry experience from an unconventional entry point. That diverse perspective is exactly why we selected you." For the first time in months, Alma felt her work being evaluated solely on its merits. Each successfully deployed feature, each bug fixed, each problem solved added another brick to the foundation of her professional confidence. Nights and weekends found her hunched over her laptop at the small kitchen table in the apartment she shared with her mother. Gabriella would place cups of tea beside her, occasionally reminding her to stretch or sleep. "You're working too hard, Mija," she'd say, concern evident in her voice. "I'm making up for lost time," Alma would reply. "I'm 30 years old, Mommy. Most developers my age have 10 years of experience already." But her focus extended beyond her day job. During a community outreach event, Alma met the director of a youth center in her old neighborhood. Their conversation about limited technology access for low-income students sparked an idea. "What if I started a weekend coding workshop?" she proposed. "Basic programming concepts, web development fundamentals. No cost to students." The director's enthusiasm encouraged her to develop a curriculum tailored to middle school students with no prior exposure coding. She purchased 5 refurbished laptops with her own savings and launched Code Your Future, with 8 hesitant students in the youth center's multipurpose room. Computers don't care where you come from, she told them during their first session. They don't care what neighborhood you live in or what your parents do for work. They only care if your code works. Meanwhile, unknown to her, Orion Prescott followed Alma's progress through quarterly departmental reports and the occasional update from Eliza. He noted her consistent contributions, her growing technical expertise, and her professional development, all achieved without his direct involvement. When an internal company newsletter mentioned her volunteer initiative, Orion made a call to Crosswell's Community Impact Team. There's a coding education program in the Milwaukee Heights neighborhood, he said. Find out what they need and provide it anonymously through our educational foundation. 2 weeks later, Alma arrived at the youth center to find 15 new laptops, professional-grade programming textbooks, and software licenses waiting. The director handed her an official letter. The Crosswell Educational Foundation selected your program for their Technology Access Initiative. Congratulations! The expansion allowed Alma to accept more students. Word spread through neighborhood schools, and soon Code Your Future had waiting lists for each session. Local news covered the program's impact, interviewing Alma about bridging the digital divide. At one Saturday workshop, Alma noticed a man in a baseball cap sitting quietly in the back row, observing as she guided students through building their first websites. Something about his posture seemed familiar, but he left before she could approach him. By summer, Alma's professional reputation extended beyond Crosswell. She presented at a regional tech conference on accessibility in application design. Her article on inclusive user interfaces was published in a respected industry journal. A prominent tech blog profiled her unconventional career path and community work. With each achievement, her confidence solidified. No one could attribute these successes to anything but her own abilities and determination. If you believe in fighting for your worth, smash that like button and share this video with someone who needs this reminder today. On a sweltering August evening, Alma sat in her apartment reviewing applications for the fall session of her coding program, now expanded to 3 locations through additional anonymous foundation funding. Her phone buzzed with a notification from LinkedIn. Orion Prescott viewed your profile. She stared at the screen, her heart performing an unexpected gymnastic routine in her chest. In the months since their confrontation, they'd maintained professional distance. Occasional glimpses across the cafeteria. Formal nods during company-wide meetings. But no conversations, no coffee breaks, no late-night confessions. Yet in that distance, something unexpected had happened. Without the complications of their workplace connection, Alma found herself thinking of Orion not as a deceptive soul, but as a man who'd listened to her dreams, who'd understood her ambitions, who'd seen her capabilities before she fully recognized them herself. She missed him, not his position or influence, but his perspective, his quiet humor, the way he'd treated her thoughts as valuable long before anyone else at Crosswell did. The realization brought no clarity, only complications. Even if she wanted to reconnect, the corporate barriers remained. The rumors had finally subsided. Approaching him now would reignite them instantly. Her hard-won professional credibility might again be questioned. Alma closed the notification without response and returned to her applications, pushing away the persistent ache of something important missing from her life, something that had nothing to do with career advancement or professional development. What she didn't know was that Orion sat in his own apartment across town, staring at his phone and wondering if viewing her profile had been a mistake or the first step towards something neither of them had anticipated. The annual Innovation for Humanity benefit gathered Milwaukee's technology leaders to raise funds for STEM education in underserved communities. As a featured speaker on educational inclusion, Alma found herself in the grand ballroom of the Lakeside Hotel, surrounded by executives in formal attire and community organizers in their best business casual. Ms. Torres, a photographer, approached. The Milwaukee Tech Journal would like a photo of you with the other panelists before your presentation. As she followed him toward the staging area, Alma nearly collided with someone turning from the refreshment table. "I'm so sorry," she began, then froze. Orion stood before her, looking different in a charcoal suit with a blue tie that matched his eyes. For a moment, neither spoke, the noisy ballroom seeming to fade around them. "Alma," he said finally, I heard you were speaking tonight. I didn't know you'd be here, she replied, immediately regretting how accusatory it sounded. The foundation is a major donor. His smile held a hint of their old comfort. Your community coding program is impressive. 3 locations now. 4 actually. We just added a girls-only session in River West. An awkward silence descended, heavy with unspoken thoughts. Miss Torres? The photographer is waiting, the assistant reminded her. I should go, she said. Of course. Orion stepped aside. Good luck with your presentation. The panel discussion focused on breaking barriers in technology education. Seated between a university dean and a nonprofit director, Alma spoke passionately about connecting with students traditionally excluded from tech pathways. Technical skills matter, she explained to the audience, but what these kids need first is someone who believes they belong in these spaces, someone who sees their potential before they see it themselves. From the third row, Orion watched her command the stage with natural authority and authentic passion. The hesitant administrative assistant had transformed into a confident advocate, her journey evident in every articulate response. After the panel, attendees circulated through the ballroom for the networking reception. Alma found herself surrounded by business cards and invitations to collaborate. An hour passed before she could break away for a moment alone on the terrace overlooking Lake Michigan. The night air provided welcome relief from the crowded ballroom. She leaned against the stone balustrade, watching moonlight shimmer across the water. Your panel was excellent, came Orion's voice behind her. She turned to find him standing in the doorway, keeping a respectful distance. Thank you, she replied. I didn't see you in the audience. I was there. He moved beside her at the railing, leaving comfortable space between them. Your students are fortunate to have you as their advocate. The compliment felt different from the hundreds she'd received that evening, genuine rather than networking currency. How have you been? She asked, surprising herself with the question. Busy. The Phoenix rollout exceeded projections. We're expanding the platform capabilities next quarter. He paused. But that's not what you're asking, is it? The directness was pure Orion, the real person beneath the CEO title. No, she admitted. It's not. I've been... He considered his words carefully, learning to be more transparent about who I am, what I want, what matters beyond quarterly results. And what does matter? She asked. He turned to face her fully. Authentic connection, purpose beyond profit, using success to create opportunity for others. A small smile crossed his features. All the things we used to talk about over coffee. The mention of their break room conversations loosened something tight in Alma's chest. Against her better judgment, she found herself smiling back. Would you like to take a walk? He asked. Just to catch up? No titles, no company politics. They strolled along the lakefront path, their conversation initially cautious but gradually warming as they shared updates from their separate journeys. Orion described new company initiatives promoting diversity in hiring practices. Alma detailed breakthroughs with particularly challenging students. Why did you anonymously fund my program? She asked eventually. He looked surprised. How did you know? The foundation's grant letter used phrases you once said to me about educational access. Plus, the timing was suspicious. I believed in your vision, he said simply, but I knew you needed to build it yourself without complications from our history. They stopped at a bench facing the water, sitting with comfortable space between them. I saw you at one of my Saturday sessions, Alma said, in the baseball cap. I wanted to see your teaching in action. His expression softened. You were extraordinary with those kids. Patient but challenging. Exactly what I wish I'd had at their age. Why didn't you introduce yourself? It wasn't my moment to share. It was yours to lead. The sincerity in his voice touched something deep within her. The same recognition that had drawn them together initially. I've missed our conversations, she admitted. Not the CEO. Not the career opportunities. Just talking with someone who understands. I've missed you, too, he said quietly. More than I expected. What he said next changed everything between them. Alma, building Crosswell was the achievement everyone celebrates, But walking away from our friendship was a decision I regret most. His voice lowered, vulnerability evident in every word. I fell in love with your mind, your principles, your courage, not as your boss or mentor, but as a person witnessing another person's extraordinary spirit. The confession hung between them, honest and unadorned. I don't know if friendship is still possible, he continued. I certainly don't expect more. But I needed you to know that what we shared was real for me. Completely real. Alma studied him in the moonlight. Not Orion Prescott, the billionaire CEO, but the man who had sat across from her in the break room, who had listened when no one else did, who had seen her potential before she fully recognized it herself. I can't go backward, she said finally. Too much has happened. I understand. He nodded, accepting her boundary with grace. But, she continued, her heart racing, I might be willing to try something new, something with complete honesty from the beginning. No hidden identities, no power imbalances. What would that look like? He asked, hope cautiously entering his expression. I don't know exactly, she admitted, but maybe we could start with dinner? Somewhere public, somewhere neutral, just Alma and Orion, figuring out if there's something worth exploring beyond our complicated history. The smile that spread across his face reminded her of why she'd been drawn to him from the beginning, the genuine person beneath the polished exterior. I'd like that very much, he said, as they walked back toward the hotel, careful inches separating them. Both recognized the risk they were taking. But some connections once formed proved too meaningful to abandon, even when complicated by circumstance, misunderstanding, and the messiness of human vulnerability. Their first official date took place at Marino's, a small Italian restaurant halfway between their neighborhoods. They chose a weeknight, hoping for privacy, but Milwaukee's technology community proved smaller than expected. The owner's daughter, an engineering student who followed industry news, recognized them immediately. By dessert, discreet photos had made their way to social media. By morning, local tech blogs featured speculation about the power couple. By lunchtime, Alma's phone exploded with notifications. CEO romance, marital manipulation, read one headline. From admin to arm candy, the Alma Torres story proclaimed another. At Crosswell, the rumor mill churned with renewed vigor. Colleagues who had finally begun respecting Alma's technical contributions suddenly revisited their assumptions. Comments ranged from envious to malicious. Some people climbed the career ladder. Others climbed into the right bed. Someone muttered loudly enough for Alma to hear as she entered a development meeting. Despite her professional accomplishments, the successful applications deployed, the coding initiative transforming young lives, the conference presentations, public perception reduced her to a stereotype, the employee who caught the boss's eye. Vanessa Chin requested another meeting, this time with both Alma and Orion present. The company has no policy against consensual relationships, she explained carefully. However, we need to address perception issues, particularly regarding potential conflicts of interest. I've already recused myself from any decisions involving Alma's department, Orion stated. Her reporting structure, compensation reviews, and project assignments all bypass my direct oversight. That addresses the structural concerns, Vanessa acknowledged, but there's also the matter of workplace culture and morale. Alma sat straighter. Are you suggesting we end our relationship because some people can't separate personal lives from professional capabilities? No, Vanessa replied. I'm suggesting we develop a clear communication strategy that protects both your privacy and the company's values. The resulting policy updates became a model for the industry, establishing transparent frameworks for workplace relationships while maintaining professional integrity. Orion insisted these changes apply to all employees equally, preventing the appearance of special treatment. Meanwhile, outside Crosswell, public scrutiny intensified. Business publications questioned whether Alma's technical roles were earned or granted. Social media users analyzed every interaction, every career move, every public appearance for evidence supporting their preferred narrative. Pattern interrupt. But when the cameras turned away from public view, Alma and Orion supported each other through the storm. Their evenings together provided sanctuary from judgment, cooking simple meals, discussing books and ideas, sharing the day's challenges without pretense. How do you handle it? Alma asked one night as they washed dishes side by side. People analyzing your every move, creating stories about your life that have nothing to do with reality. I remind myself that their opinions can't change who I actually am, Orion replied. And I focus on the people who know the real me. Those people included Gabriela Torres, who initially regarded Orion with maternal suspicion, but gradually warmed to his genuine interest in her daughter's happiness rather than her professional advancement. He looks at you the way your father looked at me, she told Alma privately. Like you are the extraordinary discovery of his life. At work, Alma threw herself into projects with redoubled determination. Each technical challenge became an opportunity to prove her capabilities beyond any doubt. When colleagues made snide remarks, she responded with composure and competence rather than confrontation. Her most vocal defender proved surprising, Vanessa Chun, who shut down a particularly vicious break room conversation with quiet authority. Ms. Torres was selected for the Bridge program before any personal relationship developed. The HR director stated firmly, her technical contributions have been independently validated by industry experts outside this company. Question her capabilities again, and you'll be discussing your own performance evaluation with me. The support meant more than Vanessa could know. Have you ever faced judgment for who you chose to love? That moment when others reduce your complex reality to simplistic assumptions? Comment below with your experience. The true test came during the Midwest Technology Conference, where both Alma and Orion were scheduled to speak. She on accessible application design, he on ethical AI development. As they arrived together, photographers crowded the entrance. Ms. Torres, is your relationship helping your career? Mr. Prescott, why not date someone from your social circle? The question stung, but Alma maintained her dignity. On stage later that day, she delivered a technically brilliant presentation that received standing ovations. Audience questions focused entirely on her innovative approach to accessibility rather than her personal life. Afterward, a young woman approached her nervously. I'm a junior developer at MakeTech, she said. Everyone there says you only succeeded because of your relationship, but your coding solutions today were incredible. You've earned everything you've achieved. Those words, from a stranger who judged her work rather than her romantic choices, provided validation that no official recognition could match. That evening, in the privacy of Orion's apartment, Alma finally allowed herself to acknowledge the toll the scrutiny had taken. Sometimes I wonder if we're making a mistake, she admitted, if the cost is too high. Orion took her hand. The only mistake would be letting other people's narratives determine our choices. What we have is real. Everything else is noise. His certainty steadied her. Together, they would weather the storm, not by hiding their relationship or apologizing for it, but by living their truth with integrity, allowing their actions to speak louder than rumors ever could. A year after their first official date, Alma and Orion married in a modest ceremony at the Milwaukee Botanical Gardens. No celebrity photographers, no social media announcements, just 70 people who knew them as individuals rather than public figures. Gabriela Torres, radiant in a blue dress Alma had insisted on buying from a designer boutique, whispered as she adjusted her daughter's simple veil. Remember who you are, Mija. Not his wife, not his employee, but Alma Torres, who earned everything through her own strength. Their vows reflected their journey, acknowledging the unusual path that brought them together while committing to a future built on mutual respect and shared purpose. I promise to see you clearly, Orion said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. Not as the world sees you, but as the extraordinary person I discovered over coffee and conversation. Their honeymoon was postponed. Alma was in the final stages of launching a major project at Crosswell, a mobile application making technology accessible to users with visual impairments. The team had worked nights and weekends to meet deadlines, with Alma coding alongside junior developers rather than merely directing their efforts. At the launch celebration, Orion watched from the back of the room as she presented the technical achievements without once mentioning her personal connection to the CEO. Her colleagues responded with genuine respect earned through demonstrated expertise. Later that evening, he asked why she hadn't taken time off for a proper honeymoon. Because this project matters, she replied simply. Our marriage is important to us personally, but this application will change lives professionally. Both deserve my full commitment. This balance between personal connection and professional integrity became the foundation for their shared vision at Crosswell. Rather than leveraging their relationship for individual gain, they channeled it towards systemic change. The first initiative emerged from Alma's coding program. What began as weekend workshops had evolved into a structured curriculum serving over 200 students annually. Working with Crosswell's Foundation, they established the Opportunity Pipeline, a comprehensive program identifying talented students from underrepresented communities and supporting them from middle school through college and into employment. The talent exists in every neighborhood. Alma explained at the program launch. What's missing are the pathways and support systems. The initiative provided not just technical education, but also mentorship, college preparation, internship opportunities, and guaranteed job interviews for graduates. Within 3 years, it became a model adopted by technology companies nationwide. Meanwhile, Orion worked to transform Crosswell's internal culture. Recognizing that their relationship had exposed both the best and worst aspects of corporate dynamics, he implemented structural changes, ensuring that all employees, regardless of background, education, or connection, had equal opportunities for advancement. The Bridge program expanded, creating multiple pathways for internal talent development. Promotion criteria became transparent, with clear metrics replacing subjective evaluations. Anonymous reporting systems allowed employees to flag instances of favoritism or discrimination without fear of retaliation. What began as a coffee conversation had now become a movement transforming technology workplaces across the Midwest. The most powerful change happens when personal values align with institutional capabilities, Orion noted in a keynote address at the National Technology Inclusion Summit. When we recognize that diversity isn't charity but competitive advantage, we move beyond tokenism toward genuine transformation. Throughout this period, Alma continued her technical work, advancing from developer to project lead to department director based on measurable results rather than personal connection. She insisted on maintaining clear professional boundaries, refusing special treatment or advantages stemming from her marriage. When the position of Chief Diversity Officer opened following the retirement of the incumbent, Alma initially hesitated to apply despite her qualifications and passion for the work. "People will say it's because we're married," she told Orion during a rare shared lunch in the company cafeteria. "Some will," he agreed. "Others will recognize that no one understands our inclusion initiatives better than the person who helped build them from the ground up." After careful consideration, Alma submitted her application. The selection committee, which deliberately excluded Orion, conducted a rigorous search process, including external candidates with impressive credentials. When they unanimously selected Alma, the announcement emphasized her technical background, community impact, and demonstrated leadership, a combination uniquely qualifying her to integrate diversity initiatives into Crosswell's core business rather than treating inclusion as a separate function. In her new role, Alma brought technical expertise to diversity work often isolated from product development. Under her leadership, Crosswell's applications became industry leaders in accessibility. Their hiring practices drew top talent from previously overlooked communities, and their workplace culture emphasized belonging alongside achievement. Together, Alma and Orion demonstrated that love and professional integrity could coexist, that personal connection and institutional impact could strengthen rather than compromise each other when built on shared values and mutual respect. 3 years after their wedding, Alma and Orion stand together at the annual Innovation for Humanity benefit, the same event where they reconnected after months of separation. The Grand Horizon Ballroom sparkles with chandeliers casting golden light across the gathered crowd of technology leaders, community organizers, and students from the Opportunity Pipeline program. Alma's emerald dress catches the light as she moves confidently through the space that once intimidated her. Tonight, she's not an outsider, but a keynote speaker introducing the newest graduates from a program she built. Young people from neighborhoods like the one where she grew up, now stepping into careers that will transform their lives and communities. "When I entered Crosswell Solutions years ago," she tells the audience, "I was just hoping for health insurance and stable employment. I never imagined standing here tonight or the journey that would unfold." The camera pans across faces in the crowd. Gabriela Torres seated proudly in the front row, Vanessa Chun, now Crosswell's Chief Operating Officer, Samir, who leads the company's innovation lab, and dozens of students whose futures have been reimagined through programs Alma and Orion created together. Success isn't measured by titles or salaries. Alma continues. It's measured by impact, by lives changed, barriers broken, and opportunities created. It's measured by the courage to remain authentic even when others question your worth. Orion watches inside the stage, his expression reflecting pride not in what he built alone, but in what they created together, a legacy extending far beyond corporate achievements or personal happiness. As Alma introduces the graduates, each represents a different aspect of transformation. The shy girl who now leads a development team, the former gang member who created an award-winning educational app, the refugee whose translation software bridges cultural divides. When Orion joins her on stage for the closing remarks, they stand as equals, their professional accomplishments and personal connection reinforcing rather than undermining each other. The story you've witnessed tonight isn't about charity, Orion tells the audience. It's about unlocking potential that has always existed in every community, every neighborhood, every background. It's about recognizing that talent doesn't conform to our expectations. It surprises, challenges, and ultimately transforms us when we have the courage to truly see each other. Their hands find each other as the crowd rises in standing ovation. The gesture isn't calculated for cameras or public consumption. It's the natural expression of two people who discover that authentic connection transcends the artificial boundaries of title, background, and expectation. But the real magic of Alma and Orion's story is that it didn't end with their personal happiness. What began as a chance encounter between an administrative assistant and a CEO in disguise expanded into a movement transforming how technology companies approach talent, opportunity, and leadership. The opportunity pipeline has expanded to 12 cities nationwide. The Bridge program has been adopted by 37 companies across multiple industries. Crosswell's accessibility standards have become industry benchmarks, ensuring technology serves everyone regardless of ability or background. Most importantly, the culture they built together proves that diversity isn't just about representation. It's about whose perspectives shape products, whose experiences inform decisions, whose voices determine priorities. As they leave the stage, a young reporter approaches. Ms. Torres Prescott, many call your story a modern fairy tale. How do you respond to that characterization? Alma smiles. Fairy tales focus on magical transformations and happily ever afters. Real life is about daily choices, persistent effort, and the courage to stand in your truth even when others try to write your story for you. The reporter looks thoughtful. And what would you tell someone facing barriers similar to those you encountered? I would tell them that your worth isn't determined by others' perceptions. That authentic connection to your work, your purpose, and the people who truly see you matters more than status or approval. That the journey may be difficult, but remaining true to yourself is always the right path. As they walk away, Orion squeezes her hand. Still think that coffee machine was unnecessarily complicated? He teases, referencing their first meeting. Best unnecessarily complicated thing that ever happened to me, she replies. If this story touched your soul, subscribe now and join our community of believers in life-changing love stories that transcend boundaries, challenge assumptions, and remind us that authentic connection remains the most powerful force for transformation in our lives. Next week, we'll explore another extraordinary journey. How a divorced schoolteacher with 3 children found herself partnering with a reclusive tech genius to create revolutionary educational software that would change how we understand learning differences forever. Because the most powerful stories aren't about wealth meeting poverty or power meeting simplicity. They're about human beings recognizing something extraordinary in each other when the rest of the world has stopped looking beyond labels. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this extraordinary story here on Soul Igniting Story. I truly appreciate you for taking the time to be with us, to open your heart, and to let these words spark something within your soul. Every story we share is crafted to inspire, to uplift, and to remind us all that love, hope, and resilience are alive in every corner of the world. If this story touched you, made you smile, or even brought a little spark of wonder to your day, I would be so grateful if you could show your support. Please give this video a like. It helps more souls discover these stories. Don't forget to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, feelings, or even your own experiences connected to the story. Your words make this community come alive. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next beautiful journey we'll be sharing together. Until next time, thank you again for being part of the Soul Igniting Story family, where every story lights a flame within.